So with factoring, what you're trying to do is you're trying to find two things that multiply to give you that. So it's sort of backwards from multiplying. And GCF is the most common way to factor, and that's only if there is a GCF. A GCF is a greatest common factor. And so with the greatest common factor, you're looking for something that goes into everything that you see. Okay? So when you're trying to pick what the greatest common factor is, you're trying to pick the number that will go into all of them, and you want to pick the biggest number that will go into all of them. Okay? And then with x's and y's, as far as the greatest common factor, you want to pick the least amount that you see. If you see an x to the third and an x is the least, so x is going to be part of the greatest common factor. If you see x to the fourth and x squared is going to be part of the greatest common factor. Okay? We're going to do the second one first just because it's a little less complicated. So can you think of a number that goes into 9, 6, and 3? 3. So 3 is part of my greatest common factor. Okay? Now look at the y's. You have a y to the third, you have a y squared, and you have a y. Y is the least, so I'm going to pick y. After you pick the greatest common factor, you're going to divide everything by that greatest common factor. Okay? And when you write your answer, your greatest common factor goes in front of whatever you get when you divide everything. Okay? So 9 divided by 3 is 3. Y to the third divided by y. 3 minus 1 is 2, so you get y squared. 6 divided by 3 is 2. Y squared divided by y. 2 minus 1. You just get 1y, so y. 3y divided by 3y is 1. And that's my answer. Okay? So with the greatest common factor, you figure out what the greatest common factor is, you divide everything by it, and then the greatest common factor goes in front of the parentheses, and then in the parentheses is what you get when you divide it. If I multiply out that whole red thing, my answer, I should end up back with what I started. Okay? So this right here is the answer. Alright, let's look at the first one. It just has more stuff, so I want to do that second one first. Okay, so we've got a 4, a 12, and a 20. What number goes into all three of those? 4. A 2 will go into it, but I want something as big as possible, so I'm going to pick a 4. Okay, now look at the x's. The first one has an x to the third, the second one has x to the third, and the third one has x squared. What would I pick? X squared. Okay, now look at the y's. The first one has y to the third, second one has y, third one has y. What do you think? Y, because y would be the least. And I shouldn't have written that parentheses yet down here, so this is 4x squared y. And then whatever I get, I'm going to put in parentheses. Okay, so let's divide. On the first one, 4 divided by 4 is 1. X to the third over x squared is just x. Y to the third over y is y squared. 12 divided by 4 is 3. X to the third over x squared, x, and y over y, that goes away. And then 20 over 4 is 5. The x's go away. The y's go away because they're the same. So that right there is my answer. All of that right there. And again, if I multiply that out, I should end back up with what I started with.